All right. Welcome to episode 67 of the Jake Blanchard podcast. As always, we've got two sponsors, Stream to See. They make sunscreen and personal care products that are friendly for your body, as well as our natural resources like oceans, rivers, and lakes. They were voted the #1 all-natural mineral sunscreen by Rolling Stone magazine recently. Pretty cool. Check them out. Also, Fellowship brand. They make premium men's grooming products like beard oil, balms, and butters. They also make a tattoo balm. JBP at checkout for both of those brands will get you 10% off your order. Check out the URLs in the description of the podcast to find out more. My guest today is my brother, Byron Ovenstone. You know, he's a fascinating guy, and I'm looking forward to hanging with him on the podcast today. I'd love to talk about his journey through life. Just a few things to get us level set here. He's like, at a very young age, he was playing very high levels of cricket, like 13 years old, 11 years old, like traveling internationally to do this kind of stuff. He's had injuries that kind of set him back. Can't wait to talk about that a little bit. He pursued a career in corporate finance, was successful in that space, had his own consulting firm out in the UK, and moved to the States about 2 years ago. I'm also proud to call him a modern day night brother. I've had a lot of the modern day night folks come on, as well as the instructors. It's always exciting for me to have folks like Byron drop by the podcast and share his wisdom, share the trajectory of his life and what he's got coming up. My man, welcome to the podcast.
It's awesome to be here. I'm so grateful to you for having me here, Jake. Thank you, sir.
Oh, for sure. Like, holy shit, dude. Like, if you're listening to the podcast, you need to go to the YouTube version of this as well, or just look up Byron up on social media. He's a fucking savage, man. He's a big dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, littered in tattoos. He's got the goatee that just looks fierce. He looks like a Viking.
That's what we're going for.
Dude, and you and I got a workout in maybe about 2 or 3 months ago when I dropped down to Southern California. You certainly were big then too, man. So
yeah. We've been shredding up. So we had a photo shoot this morning. So I think when we trained together, I was about 225, maybe 230. Weighed in this morning at 208. So definitely, leaned out, dropped like 20 something pounds for this photo shoot. But yeah, it's been fun.
Dude, I love your Instagram. Sometimes you're just doing pull-ups with like draped in chains. I'm like, it gets me fired up, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, so
it's good fun.
Yeah, let's start with you personally, man. Let's talk a little bit about like where you're from originally. Obviously, you've got a little bit of an accent here. Like, where's that come from? And like, take me through some of the journeys early in life.
Alrighty. So grew up in South Africa. And from a young age, I think I picked up a cricket bat at like 5 years old or something like that. And my dad was throwing balls to me and I was just banging him and he was like, damn, this kid, he's got good hand-eye coordination. So he set me up with some private coaching and stuff like that from a young age. And from about 9, maybe 10 years old, I was thinking this could be a career. Like there's something here. Which was awesome. So we just went all in on that. So between cricket, rugby, and hockey, that was my 3 sports because it's just good general fitness and then like just good hand-eye coordination type of stuff. So we did that. And at 11 or just shy of 11, I think I might have just been turning 11, I got picked to represent KZN, which is KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, for an under 13 trip to the UK. And that's when all of a sudden, like the penny dropped and I was like, okay, I'm playing with guys that are 3, sometimes 4 years older than me. And I'm holding my own in this little scene. So that was pretty dope. So my parents had to obviously come up with the money to allow me to travel like that. Cause I don't know if you know much about South Africa, but the exchange rate is terrible. So when we went specifically, it was about 22 Rand to the pound. So for every £1 of theirs, it was $22 to us. And like 1,000 Rand did pretty much bought you dinner and then you were up shit creek, right? So we had to find a ton of money. My parents were able to do that for me, which I'm incredibly grateful for. But while out there, I kind of shone. I was lucky enough to have a very good time. So in that, I think we were there for about a month. I came back with having broken a bunch of records. So like highest batting average, most runs scored, all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. And then it was like, okay, this is serious. And at about 13, that's when the sponsorships started coming in. So I was given kit to play in and stuff like that, which was awesome because, again, if you know anything about cricket, you know that stuff's expensive. Like to kit yourself out, a decent bat, you're looking at like 6,000 Rand, which is in today's money in terms of dollars, it's probably like just shy of $1,000.
Oh,
in
wow.
US dollars. Yeah, so it's not Mickey Mouse money. Like, it's an expensive sport. So to have people giving you like 6, 7, 8 bats a season, that's at 13 years old, you're now playing on a whole different level. And at 13, I then actually entered the men's league. So I was playing Premier League cricket in KZN. And I was the youngest guy to ever represent KZN in terms of the Premier League. So that was pretty cool too. And then, yeah, it was just stacking wins on top of that. And it got to a point where like my parents were able to put me into even better schooling and stuff like that, because it was scholarships and all that that comes with being decent at a sport. And then fast forward 17, I then went to the UK and I just followed the summer for 3 or 4 years. So in the summer in the UK, I would play there. And then in the summer in South Africa, I'd play here. And I literally would play cricket 12 months a year. And I was getting paid to play as well, which was awesome. So anywhere from like £1,000 a week to probably about 5,000 or 6,000 rand a week, which was awesome. And it was just a case of, okay, we're just going to do this cricket thing. And like, I got to do that for a
Wow.
while. Yeah.
Okay.
And then,
let me just pause here.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask a fundamental question.
Go
I
ahead.
really don't know anything about cricket.
Okay.
Like, could you just take a second to explain? Like, I know, let me tell you what I know.
Okay.
I know that the bat is flat.
Yes,
I know
sir.
that sometimes games go for like multiple days.
Yes, sir.
I know that you bowl
Mhm.
and then you're trying to hit some sticks behind the person with the bat, but that's basically all I know about cricket. Maybe fill in some high level blanks for me here.
Okay, so you play it on an oval. So you got a big field that's like massive. You've got this pitch in the middle. It's made out of like a clay kind of bully. Depends on which part of the world you're playing in. And they will roll that and compress it so that it reacts differently to the ball. And then the ball is pretty much like a baseball, except it's got a seam on it. And that seam then allows you to be able to bounce it off the wicket, which is the patch that I just talked about, the clay patch, and the ball you can manipulate the ball off the surface. There's then other things that you can do where you shine one side, you scuff up the other side, and now the ball will naturally be more aerodynamic one side, so it'll start swinging in the air. And then, like you said, there's a bowler, so he will run in and he'll bowl at a batsman. The batsman's job is to not get out and not get hurt, and the bowler's job is to either get him out or hurt him.
What do you mean hurt him? Like hit the batter?
Yeah. So if I can, like, I mean, the rules have changed slightly now because they wanted to be like that one guy got hit in the back of the head and died, that Australian guy. So they were like, oh shit, okay, this is pretty serious. Like, guys are taking this to another level. I mean, you get hit at 100 miles an hour in the head by a ball the size of a baseball, it damages you, right? So they started changing the rules a bit more, and there's things like you can't bowl body line too much. But it's been a case for a long time where like bowlers will run in, especially when I was 13 playing in a men's league. If they couldn't get me out in terms of like hitting the wickets behind me, they would just try and retire me hurt. So they would try and break my ribs or like hit me in the head so hard that I got like concussed or knocked out, and then I couldn't bat anymore. So that was the joys of being 13 playing in a men's league.
That's a dynamic of this game that I didn't anticipate learning. Like
Yeah.
I kind of thought it was like a real like prim and proper kind of game in the sense of like everybody's wearing kind of like white and there's some padding and some things that they've got, and it's like, you know,
Yeah.
what do they call the arena or the field? Doesn't it have like a
it's like the oval or
the oval.
The pitch, the wicket. But it's considered the game it's the gentleman's game played by barbarians. And it pretty much sums up the game perfectly. So yeah,
that's cool, man. That's
yeah.
I appreciate you sharing a little. I'm going to start watching a little bit more cricket. I think I watch it and don't really understand what's going on, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone get hit. I don't think I understood that was part of a game.
I can send you a reel of some of the fastest bowlers in the world doing work, and you'll see the guys. It's brutal.
Do it, brother.
Yeah, so there was a game where I got hit in the head 3 times in a row, and got retired hurt. That was rough. So you have this helmet on your head, and then there's this visor that comes around the front. And I got hit so hard in the front that it caved the visor in and like split my lips and like spitting blood and stuff. That was fun. But like you said, the game can last either a couple hours or it can last 5 days. It just depends on the format that you're playing. And then there's different rules that go in with the longevity of the game. So like a 5-day game, we could bat for 5 days and we just make it a tie at the end of it. Or you can play to win. It just depends. There's different variations. And Nowadays, there's guys that specialize more in a specific format versus, say, like 10 years ago when I was still playing, they expected you to be good across the board on all of them. Versus now they'll have like South Africa will pay like 3 or 4 different teams to represent South Africa in the T20 and then in a 1-day game and then in a 5-day game, etc. Because there's different dynamics and the intensity of the game, the fitness level that you need to have, that kind of stuff, it all changes and it's tricky. So
okay. So then you played until when? And then why did you stop playing cricket?
So I played up until about, I think it was either 20 or 21-ish. And I fractured my back for the first time. And didn't really know I had fractured my back, but I knew that I was in trouble. Like I was in a lot of pain all the time. But it was one of those situations where at the time I was getting paid to play, but then I was getting incentives as well. And the league that I was playing in the UK was Leicestershire. It's a relatively well-off league. And I was getting serious bang to make runs and take wickets and take catches and stuff like that. So for every 100 that I scored, I'd get paid like a fat check. So it was like, okay, do I want to play through the pain, or do I, like, you know, that whole thing where you're like, am I going to be a pussy because I'm probably blowing this up to the point where it's not as bad as I think it is, so maybe I should just play through it, couple painkillers and I'll be fine. So I fractured my back. That was rough. Went to get CAT scans and stuff, and they're like, oh, you fractured your back, you probably need some time off. And previously, when I was 9, I was rushed to ICU with kidney failure because a doctor didn't pick up on the fact that I had like some kind of rare blood poisoning that was attacking my kidneys. So I nearly had a stroke and died at 9 years old. So I already have this massive distrust for doctors, okay? And I'm like, basically, screw this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'll be fine. I'm just going to play through painkillers. I took like, I think it was 2 weeks off where I did like this half-assed rehab type thing and then went straight back into it. Because one, we had the title for the season on the line. And I was like, if I don't play this, and I was way more arrogant. I was a lot less humble back then. I was like, if I don't play, we don't win, which there was an element of truth to that because I had a record on that particular season of like cashing in and doing really well. But at the same time, like we could have won without me, but it was my ego talking. And I was like, well, and I want to get paid. Like I'm in the prime of my life. I'm literally walking out there and I felt like I was a god amongst men where, you know much about like being in the zone? I'm guessing you've been there when you're in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, a
and
little
you're in
bit.
this like state of flow, right? And it's like, you know what's going to happen before it happens and you're able to position yourself and you move yourself. And like it's almost like you have full control of your environment. And I was able to tap into that quite a lot being a sportsman. So it was like, okay, I'm in this place where I can literally know what he's going to do before he does it. And I can determine what I'm going to do and where I'm going to go with this. So I was able to go, okay, I think there's a 90% probability the ball's going to shape this way. It's going to come across me this way. I'm going to hit inside out over cover. And I'm going to split those two fielders out there. And it was like I was an alchemist of the future within this little realm of mine. So anytime I walked onto the field, I was like, damn, okay, this is my place. And I didn't want to give that up because I thought if I take the 6 months off like this guy wants, who's to say that I'll be back in this place? How do I know I can tap back into it? So a couple of weeks off, I did a half-hour rehab type thing and then straight back onto painkillers and a bunch of like deep heats. And I would get my back massaged beforehand, straight into play. I didn't know what massaging was going to do because it's a fracture, not muscle, but anyway. So one fracture. And then I think it was like 2 or 3 games from the end of the season, I fractured it again the other way. So I had like this nice Y-shaped fracture in the base of my back. And once the adrenaline wore off and all of that, and I was lying on a bench inside the change room, the guys were like, yeah, let's go. We'll grab a drink or something. And I was like, I can't move. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't move? I was like, I'm in so much pain. Breathing hurts. I legitimately can't move. And that was pretty much the tilting point where the guys were like, okay, we'll take you to the doctor. The doctor was like, yeah, you've now got this beautiful Y-shaped fracture in the base of your spine. And if you do this again, there's a high probability you're going to be in a wheelchair. And I was like, wow, okay, that was like my come to Jesus kind of moment where I was like, okay, maybe I'm not a god amongst men. Maybe I am actually in a position where I could do some serious damage here. So I started this rehab process and stuff, but then came back the following season and just wasn't the same as I was before. I don't know if it might have been a bit of mental as well, but there were certain movements I just couldn't do anymore. So like when I was trying to, so there's a shot called like a hook, where it's if the guy's bowling and he's literally trying to hit you in the head, and you're just going to swing across your face and you're going to hit it through like the other side. I couldn't play that shot anymore. So now all of a sudden I'm super vulnerable to getting hit in the head, right? So that's problematic. And it's like, okay, well, now we're trying to work around all of these injuries and make things happen. And I mean, I was still good, but I wasn't good enough to get paid the kind of money that I was getting paid. And I literally just watched it like stair step down. And it got to a point where I was getting, I think it was about $5,000 a week playing sport, $5,000 a month. Sorry, not even $5,000 a week anymore. It was like $5,000 a month to play sports. And I was like, if this is the rest of my life, I don't want it. Like, I'm not getting out. It's good money. Like a lot of people would pray for that kind of money. But when you're putting that much stress and that much like taxing on your body consistently, and the hours that I had to put in consistently just to perform at a relatively good level, I was like, this is not what I'm going to do. I can't do this anymore.
So then, so then the next question would be what catalyzed like going into finance?
Google search. Honestly, I went onto Google and I was like, right, I know I want to be super wealthy. I want to make a ton of money. I got used to making good money and I didn't want to give that up. So I got on Google.
I could see it. Hold on a second. I could see the whiteboarding session. You sit down, you have the whiteboard in front of you. You're like, all right, so I'm not going to be a professional athlete anymore. All right. Okay. So what am I going to do? All right. Well, I want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
All right. Let me Google that real quick. What makes a lot of money? Oh, corporate finance.
Exactly.
All right.
Literally
Solution.
what I did. So I was in London at the time and I Googled, I said, what's the highest paying job in London? And it was finance consultants. And I was like, I'm making accounts, so that can't be that rough, right? So then I started digging into it a little bit and I was like, okay, this is a little more tricky than I thought. I need degrees and I need this, that, and the other. So, okay, well, and I wasn't very financial literate back then either. So as much as I was earning, I was spending because I knew that I was going to get $5,000 a week or whatever it was. So it's like, okay, well, I can spend $5,000 today because I know next Friday I'm going to get paid again and it's all good. So it was just like this rolling door of money in, money out. As quick as I could earn it, I could spend it. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, well, now I'm pretty much broke. No one's going to pay me to play this game anymore. And I have nothing to fall back on. This is serious. Like, I'm either going to become a bum or I've got to figure this out. So then I started looking at opportunities to study. And there was a university in South Africa that was going to let me play cricket for them and represent them. I had to play. They would give me my degree. But when I dug into it further, I realized that South Africa's degrees don't mean anything. Like, even if I then went to the UK would make me sit my exams all over again because the piece of paper that you get from a South African university has no weighting to it. Like, no one in the rest of the world cares about that because the South African education system sucks. So it's like, okay, well, then why would I do that? I'm going to waste 4 years of my life putting my body on the line again, because this is the only way I can pay for a degree. And then I'm going to have to resit exams and do all of this again abroad because I didn't want to live in South Africa. Like, I don't know what you know about South Africa, but it's not a nice place. It's nice for a holiday and like a touristy kind of situation. But if you're living in the cities like Johannesburg, Cape Town, I mean, crime is high, violence is high. And I just didn't want that for myself or my family. So it's like, okay, plan B is UK. How am I going to get there? And it wasn't on a South African degree. So then I was talking to one of the guys in the UK about making like a ton of money quickly, but keeping my costs as low as possible. And he was like, oh, one of my buddies went to the US and he did like this farming thing. I was like, his farming thing? He's like, yeah, you basically just drive these big trucks and you move like farming equipment from one farm to another farm. And then you go from like Texas to Montana sometimes, and you just drive and you get paid fat money. I was like, well, I know how to drive. I feel like I'm a good driver. So I applied. And the guy was like, what kind of driving experience you got? I was like, well, I drove to games every day and I drove to practice every day, but I'm not like a professional driver. I don't know what kind of question that is. He's like, well, there's a long shot that you're going to get this job, but I'll put you forward and we'll see what's up. But it worked in my favor in that a few South Africans that went out previously had a really good work ethic. And the guy was like, okay, I know South Africans come here and they put out because they're going to earn dollars. And when you take those dollars back to South Africa, you earn like, let's say, $80,000 in a year driving these trucks. You take that back to South Africa, it's like R1 million, which in South Africa is like a ton of money. So I was lucky enough in that situation to be South African, and it's probably the only time being South African ever served me. But he was like, yeah, okay, I want this South African on my team because I know he's going to be hungry and he's going to work. So yeah, fast forward literally like 2 weeks, they put me on a plane and flew me here to the US, and I was in Texas, and I had 8 days to learn everything I needed to know about driving a massive rig, and learning how to back up with 2 trailers and stuff like that. And if you didn't pass the exam, they shipped you home. But if you did, and there's like 8 or 9 papers, and then there's a driving test and all sorts of stuff.
So was that for a CDL?
Yeah. Yeah. So I got CDO. It's right here. I'll show you.
No, yeah, I believe you, man. That's yeah, that's wild, dude.
Yeah. So we had like 8 days to learn all of that. Past that. And he's like, right, cool. I'm going to need you to go to Oklahoma and pick up some stuff. Like, I don't know where Oklahoma is, bro. I literally just got off a plane. He's like, well, you need to figure it out. So he bought us these phones with a little GPS on it and stuff. And he's like, you going here. And it was literally like a free for all. So I lived out the back of my truck. He gave me this massive heavy haul truck. And he would just be like, right, I need you to pick up this stuff and you're going here. And then you're going to meet these farmers over here and you're going to bring this here. And it was just like this thing. But I got there sort of February, March time. And by the end of December, I had squirreled enough money away to not only pay for my visa back to the UK, but to pay off my degree in full, which was massive. Wow. So I did that. So I have no student loan or anything like that, which is awesome. But what I didn't anticipate was how expensive London was to live. So I was in London studying, getting a degree, but I had nowhere to live because I couldn't afford it. And I was basically, if you go to London to study, you're restricted on how many hours you're allowed to work. And I think it's like 10 hours a week that you're allowed to work. And in 10 hours, you can't really earn enough money to pay rent in one of the most expensive cities in the country.
Why do they restrict you on how many hours you work?
Because too many people used to go over to the UK on a study visa, and then they would just work full time and not actually study. So they would then, so it was like a little loophole that they caught, and then they were like, okay, we need to fix this. This is not the one.
Okay.
So they restrict your work in. So now you have to study. And I was quickly finding myself with nowhere to live, which sucked. So I slept in my car. So my parents were able to like put aside enough money for me to buy like a cheap, janky car that would get me around London. And then I was working for a courier company because now I was driving so much in the US that on a CV, a courier company was like, yeah, okay, you can come and drive for us. I was like, well, I don't really want to drive, to be honest. I'd rather work like behind the scenes because that'll be more in alignment with what I want to do moving forward. So they got me on driving first. And then I like started to show that what I was learning at university was actually useful in their business. So they pulled me into the business side of stuff, and I started in customer service. And then I worked my way up to senior account manager or something like that. And we grew the business from, I think it was like 800 grand a year to 5.5 million a year before I like packed it in and moved on. But I took like the 90 or so of the smallest accounts that we had. And by the end of my little stint there, which was my 3 years or so that I was studying, I had like 60 of the biggest accounts in the whole business. So we took people that were just kind of like ticking the box and using the bare minimum. And just by loving them up and actually being present and giving a shit about them, all of a sudden they were like, wow, you guys are different to every other courier company. No one else gives it, like no one cares about us, but you actually pick up the phone and you care. So they just started sending more and more business. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this is basically a printing press. And this was one of the biggest secrets that I then was able to take into my own consulting firm, where it's like, if you actually care, people want to do business with you.
So, and what an important lesson I think that you're teaching there as well, right? It's just letting people know your intentions. So you told them, hey, I'd really like to work in the back of the office. Like, I'll drive. Yeah, that's totally fine. But like, this is what I want to do. And then when they give you the opportunity to do it, then you basically, 7X the business over a handful of years. Because they gave you the opportunity, because you were willing to apply it, because you were willing to go the extra mile, there's always room, right?
Right. And there was motive behind it as well, because I didn't want to sleep in my car forever, because that was rough and it's not comfortable.
Yeah, it's probably, so, what kind of car?
It was a little Renault Clio. So a 2-door Renault Clio. I don't think you get them here. But it's a janky, tiny little car. And like, I don't know if you've ever had to sleep in your car, but it's not comfortable. Like your back gets blown out. And then I had to have a gym membership so that I had somewhere to shower. and I could work out. And then I like would used to take my clothes to the laundromat and use a
How long did you
laundromat to
do
clean
that
my
for?
clothes. It was between 4 and 6 months ish.
Oh, wow.
And then I built up enough credibility to then be in the office a lot more. And then I started, like, I was super tactical and manipulative, to be honest, but I started saying, like, there's a lot of careers that don't work 24/7. I'm here anyway, and I want to grow the business and I want to be a part of something pretty cool. So what about if I worked like pretty much around the clock? Like, you don't have to pay me more. I'll just be here. And if the phone rings, we'll do business with them. If the phone doesn't ring, well, I'm here anyway. Like, it'll be fine. And the guy, I think he kind of cottoned on to the fact that I just didn't want to sleep in my car. So he was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I worked night shift and I used to sleep at my desk. So where the desk was, you just like put your arms and you sleep on the chair, which is a little bit more comfortable than in the car. And then eventually we would have customers coming in, and I was like, customers don't really have anywhere to sit when they come in the office. We should probably get a sofa. And he's like, hey, that's actually a really good point. Like, we need somewhere for them to sit. So then he got this like 4-person sofa, and that then became my bed that I used to sleep on. And I slept on there for like nearly a year. And then I had scored away enough money to then be able to afford rent in London and stuff like that. And that changed the game some.
Wow. Well, what an incredible story there. I mean, that's intense, man. So that's your forge, right? I mean, that's your melting pot for like galvanizing your mindset, and you're like just figuring out how to get by. I mean, you were a professional athlete essentially, and then all of a sudden you're working at a courier company, sleeping on a couch. So
yeah,
then,
humbling.
yeah, humbling experience. And then what happens then? How long were you in school for? Like, what did you graduate with? And then how did you get out into the finance space?
Sure. So I initially just did a business administration course because that was like an entry level thing. I knew I needed to get an MBA, but in order to get the MBA, you had to have a BA first. So I just did a general BA in business studies, just tick that box. And I realized real quick that I didn't need to take 4 years to do a degree that wasn't that challenging, to be honest with you. So I said to them, like, is there a way we can compress this and make this happen real quick? Because I don't want to be doing 4 years of study that I don't need to take 4 years to do. And they were like, well, we actually offer this fast track thing where you can do a 3.5 year or 4 year degree in 18 months. I was like, sign me up, I'm in. So I did that fast track method where I got that degree done in sort of 18 months-ish, maybe just shy of 2 years. And then I was talking to one of the guys there, and he was like, oh yeah, we have a cricket team. And I was like, well, that's cool. I said, I used to play cricket. And then he Googled me and saw some of the stuff online, and he was like, oh, okay, no, this guy does actually play cricket. He was kind of good. So he then said, oh, would you play for our team? And I was like, I'm not really that interested. He's like, well, I'm able to pull some pretty big strings with the university. And we could potentially get you further education at a massive discount if you wanted. I was like, okay, now I'm interested. You've got me. And then he was like, he managed to get me 100% scholarship to then do my MBA through the same university if I played cricket for them. So I was like, okay. And I did the MBA, and then I did it. Instead of doing the full-time one where I had to go in during the week and stuff, I did the one on the weekends. So that one took longer because I had to then work, and then weekends I was in there to study. But I needed to work in order to keep paying my rent and all of that.
Yeah.
But it was an opportunity to get an MBA. So after the business studies degree, though, I did manage to move from the courier company into a finance consulting business, which was awesome because now I was on the track of where I wanted to be. I obviously didn't have my own financial consulting business, but I was part of a consulting firm. So I got to like learn about it on someone else's dime. And then I think it was about a year or so, or maybe 18 months of that. And I realized how much they were charging for my services and then paying me peanuts. And I was like, this can't continue. This is wild. So I think they were charging me out at like £600 a day and paying me 150. I was like, the margins on that is wild. I could come in here and do 300. It's a win-win all round, and I don't have to work for this consulting firm anymore. So then again, I started like kind of playing the game and making contacts and growing the network and stuff. And then, yeah, went out on it on my own and had my own consulting firm for 4 years maybe.
I love it. And then
before I realized I hated it.
And what about it was so soul sucking that you got out of the finance space?
I just realized that bankers don't give a shit about anyone else. Banking is not there for the people. Banking is there for the bankers. It's about how can I get as much money out of Jake's account and give it to the bank. So how much can I drive you into debt or make you accrue debt so that you're on a credit card or a loan for the rest of time? And then we have this recurring income that keeps coming in. And as soon as you look like you're whittling away at that income sum, we'll then just increase your credit or increase like your ability to remortgage your home or whatever. And we manipulate the situation where it sounds like it's a good deal for you. Oh, refinance your house. Oh, that could be cool because my payments might come down some. Okay, yeah, but now you're in for another 40 years or something, so we play the long game. And when I realized that bankers didn't care about anyone else other than themselves, and I realized just how many people go broke and homeless because of banks and like the work that I was like involved in, it started hitting home, especially when you think about the fact that there's people that have like kids and families and they homeless because of the work we were doing. It started hitting different. And I was like, because I had lived in a car, right? So I knew it. I knew what that felt like. I know how much it sucked. And I knew that there was a time when I was forced to fast 3 days a week because I couldn't afford to eat. So now I'm putting other people in that situation to further myself and my career. That's like the biggest dick move you could ever do.
Yeah.
So it sat really off for me. I couldn't. And then I started getting miserable. I don't think I was depressed, to be honest. I don't know much about depression, but I knew that I hated what I was doing. I hated the trajectory I was on. And I remember when I was still a kid, my dad used to say to me, like, look at the guys that are like 10 or 15 years older than you. If that is where you want to be, then you're on the right track. But if you look at those guys and you're not in awe of where they are, you're in the wrong place. And that for some reason, I flashed back to that and I was like, shit, I don't want to be where those guys are. And then I heard another podcast from some other guy that said, if the 6-year-old you or 13-year-old you met you now, would they be proud? And that one was just like a stabbing pain to the heart because I knew that 13 or 16-year-old me or even 6-year-old me would be severely disappointed in who I was, the shape that I was in. Yeah, I earned good money. I mean, I was earning more money than I knew how to spend, but I did a good job of spending it, to be honest. But like, I knew that there was more to life than collecting checks and making money. Like having a nice house is cool. Having a nice penthouse is cool. Having a sports car is cool. But at what price? Like you can have all of that, but you can do it ethically to the point where like you're making other people's lives better, not worse. And that's where I was kind of having that internal battle.
Okay. And when I first met you, you were still on the back end of your financial consulting in the UK, and you were thinking about just doing something different, doing something new, getting a reset in life, and potentially making your way to the US. So maybe unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. So I had a goal at the beginning of 2019. I said to myself, I looked in the mirror and I was like, you're an embarrassment. Honestly, I was 260, 280 pounds. I was fat, horrible, just miserable. I was escaping this game called life. I would go to my consulting place. I would work 18 hours a day. I would go home and I would play games on my computer because I just didn't want to face the real world. So I didn't want to ever have to look in the mirror and say like, Byron, you're a piece of shit. So it was easier to escape. And then the beginning of the year, I was like, this can't go on. This is not healthy. You're just putting yourself in an early grave for what? So then I set a goal of being in the best mental and physical shape of my life. And I basically reverse engineered that. And I knew how to get physically strong because I'd been there. I did it for sport. So I started with that, but I never knew how to unpack the mental side of it. And then all of a sudden, one day, I saw the project come up on Bedross's page. I was like, that looks like it could be kind of a mental challenge. I knew it was going to be physical, but I knew that there was a bigger mental side of it than the physical. And I was like, okay, this is how I test my mental fortitude at the end of the year. So I signed up for that. And I had already then at that point, like, because I was getting so much fitter, stronger, healthier, I had started a exit strategy of banking because I was like, I know that this is not my path. I'm not happy here. So I said, okay, I'm going to give myself 18 months. And it was like June or July. And I said, I'm going to give myself 18 months to exit banking, to the point where I can have like a fat sum of money to the side, and then I'll figure it out and I'll do something else. But then I turned up at the project and we were put through so much discomfort. And like, I just saw that there was guys doing good stuff for people. And in the time, you're like, damn, these guys are beating me up. This sucks. Like, this is not fun. But then once you, almost like you just, like they say, trust the process. And once you kind of switch your mindset to everything that they're doing for me is serving me at this point, like they are helping me become a better version rather than, oh, they're bullying me, or like, you know, that victim mindset. Once you shift beyond that and you realize actually they're pushing me to unlock a few layers here and show me what I'm actually capable of. It was at the graduation dinner where I'd said, like, I think it was at the table where I said, I'm not going back to banking. I can't. Like, now that I see the potential and I see that there's guys out there that make like good money doing things that make people's lives better, why, how could I possibly go back to financial consulting?
Yeah. And I would happen to be at that dinner because I was I was a cadre and for class 002, and that was powerful to hear. But I was sitting there scratching my head on how you might make that come to life.
Yeah, I had no idea. I'm not gonna lie, but I knew that I was done with it. And I think Aaron actually said to me, he's like, if you're serious, give me a call tomorrow. So we got our phones back and whatever. And the next morning I woke up nice and early and I phoned my accountant and I was like, shut it down. And it's like, what do you mean? I said, shut it down. I'm done. I was like, I'll work out whatever remaining contracts we have, hand in my 30 days notice or whatever. If possible, I'm going to palm off the work to whoever will take it, but I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to leave banking. I'm actually leaving the UK because I knew if I stayed in the UK, I would fall back into that because it's comfortable, it's easy. And I knew that I was making money, and I'll get to a point where you get to that pinch and it's like, this is uncomfortable. I'm going to go backwards because you know that you can fall back on something. Whereas if you leave the country completely and you cut all ties, now you're up shit creek. You're like, I'm going to have to figure this out. So Aaron said, oh, if you're serious, give me a call tomorrow. After speaking to my consultant, I texted Aaron. I was like, yeah, we're done. I'm shutting it down. When can I'm moving to the US. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure it out. And he was like, okay, cool. Well, I have a spare bedroom you can rent from me if you want while you figure it out. I said, perfect. So I went back to the UK. I gave away as much as I could give away. I sold what I could sell, but to be honest, I was on such a time crunch and I didn't want to negotiate for like a few bucks here and a few bucks there. I was just like, actually, you know what, just take it, get it out of here. I want done. I'm out. And then, yeah, flew back to the US. I think it was like 26 days later or 25 days later.
Wow.
And started again. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no money coming in, but I was like, we'll figure it out. There's always a way. One of my first mentors said to me, he's like, Byron, if you're a good person and you're prepared to work, you will always find opportunities. You just have to have the right mindset and the right attitude. I was like, perfect. I'm coming to US with a new attitude and we're going to make this happen.
And so let's reflect that mindset, that attitude, especially in the last 2 years, has been important to have that personal responsibility, that deep internal drive, that getting better every single day, comparing yourself to yourself. Like a lot of things I see you post about online, like talk to me about that. And what's the last 2 years been like since you've been in the States, and what have you learned about yourself?
It's been, I mean, there was times where it was challenging because initially I moved over here and I was like, okay, we have no income, there's nothing, and that's scary. But one of the biggest things that got me leveling up in cricket as fast as I did was I knew that the version I was yesterday was never good enough for today. So I had to be better today in order to get to where I want to be. If I want to get paid millions of dollars or millions of rands to be one of the top cricketing players in the country, let alone the world, like, you need to be pretty dialed in. Like, you can't just turn up, tick a couple boxes and think that's going to happen for you. It's not. It's the same as business. It's the same as fitness. All of it is the same thing. So really early on in life, my dad instilled this thing, and I kind of, I guess, passengers, whatever. I called it the 1% rule, where I was like, okay, whatever yesterday's good was, I have to be 1% better today. Doesn't matter whether it's sending 100 emails or whether it's hitting 1,000 cricket balls. Like today, I have to hit 1,100 cricket balls because I need to be 1% better today than I was yesterday. So I just instilled that in what I do here. So I turn up to the gym, and if I did 10 pull-ups yesterday or last week in this workout, I'm going to do 11 today, or I'm going to throw a chain on and make it harder. Because as soon as you start leveling up your level of hard, what was hard yesterday is no longer hard. That's just normal. Now there's a whole nother layer of hard that you can tap into. And that's where like it starts testing the mind, because most of the time, and you'll know this from jiu-jitsu, like your mind gives up way before your body. Your body's like, yeah, I mean, I'm fatigued, I'm tired. But like one thing that the project will show you, if the guys that go through it, is like when you think you're going to tap out, if you're just like, hey, bitch voice, shut up, we got this. Like, I'm going to take one more step, or I'm going to do one more push-up, or I'm going to do one more lunge, or fucking one more hammer curl, or whatever it is. Like when you just have that, I'm going to do one more mindset, what you thought was your finish line, you can go way beyond that. And I've proven it to myself many times where I've done like, I'll put my body weight on a squat bar and I'm like, I think I could get maybe like 30. And then I'm just like, okay, once I hit 30, I'm like, one more. And all of a sudden you do 50 and you realize, holy shit, how much have I left on the table in the gym? Because I thought 30 was my limit, but I just said one more, 20 more times. And then when you start taking that into outside of the gym, into like the business world, the growth on that is exponential. So I just realized that there's a lot of correlations between being good at sports and being good in business, or being good as a father, or as a partner. And it's all the same thing. It's all that 1% rule, where I need to show up today 1% better than I was yesterday. Yes, it's uncomfortable. And you're always like, I said to B a while back, I said to him, so you know what, like one of the things I'm really struggling with is I'm constantly disappointed in myself because I don't meet my own expectations on a daily basis. And he was like, yeah, but you need to understand, you need to get to a point where you're blissfully dissatisfied. So you identify and you appreciate where you are right now, but you know that tomorrow where you are is no longer good enough. Like you need to be blissfully satisfied or blissfully dissatisfied and continually move that bar, because the moment you become satisfied with where you are, that's where you stay, and you form this new comfort zone, and then you're just chilling.
Absolutely. And I've brought that up on the podcast a couple of times. I think I've heard B say it, or Aaron say it, or different folks. Just that is such an important just feature of self-awareness. Like I can be happy, but unfulfilled at the same time. Like my happiness comes through the journey, and
100%.
the journey requires there to be more to do. And because I'm on the right path, I am happy, but I am not satisfied at where I am today, because I will continue to move that goalpost and I will never achieve it likely in my life. I'll achieve milestones along the way, things that I want to do. Like for me personally, like, you know, I'd love to have a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm working toward it. I'm maybe about halfway there in my training. We got another at least 5, 6, 7 years till I can get there. And once I get black belt, great. I'm going to celebrate it. I'm going to be happy, but my Jiu-Jitsu is not done.
Oh, no.
You're just so much started. More to do. And I'm so happy and open to that. So I love that you brought that concept to light on the podcast today, for sure.
Yeah. So I just got to the point where, I started writing down my goals. And as soon as it was even within sight, I moved the bar. Because if you get to a point where you tick that box and you're like, I'm there, well, now you're done. And then what? Like you say, the finish line needs to move. Otherwise you get stagnant, you just become average and you settle. And I can't settle. I'm like a shell. If I stop moving, I die.
Well, I can tell you that you've got something coming up in about a week or two in your life that's not going to allow you to settle much, man. How's you know, I'm really excited for you and for Hannah as well. Talk about the growth of your family a little bit, man. I'm excited to hear this. Yeah.
So in a relationship with Hannah, she's got a son already, Jameson. He's 6. He's a little monster. It's so much fun having him around. Like he tests me in ways that I didn't even know kids could test you, because he's like, he plays in the gray, and he's so good at playing in the gray, where it's like, yeah, but you said this. And I'm like, I know what I said, but I expected you to know that I was like also talking about that gray that you're now playing in and testing me on. You know what I mean? So like he tests my communication
just like that. Yeah.
Dude, he tests the communication abilities and all sorts, but it's there's never a dull moment. Like I don't get home and I'm like, oh fuck, you know, I get home and I'm like, this is awesome. Like I enjoy it. Even when he's testing me and I want to literally like throttle him, because I'm like, bro, you know you're pissing me off right now. You know you're pushing my buttons. And it's like he's just trying to see how far he can go.
Yeah.
And I respect that, because I was the same. Like when I was 6, 8, 10, if my parents gave me gray, I was like, I'm going to play in this gray. I just want to see what Like, what are the consequences in this little zone here? How much can I get away with before the shit hits the fan? So I can appreciate that. And it tests me in terms of my communication, because if I can't communicate at home with him, how can I communicate in business and stuff like that now? So it's like, it's awesome. Thoroughly enjoying the process, but we've got another little one on the way. She's due on Monday, 7 a.m. actually. So if it goes according to plan, Scarlett will have 7 a.m. on Monday morning. That's a whole nother level of like scared. As I think before we pushed record, I said to you, like, I haven't been scared for a long time, and not much scares me anymore, because I'm pretty much in that point where it's not that I think I'm bulletproof. I just know that I'll figure it out. Like, I've done this enough times to the point where, like, you could pull me out of here and dump me in another country and I'll figure it out. I've restarted 3 times in my life. At which point, like, I know the process. I'm okay with it. I'm comfortable with it. But damn, dude, this is the first time in a long time I'm scared, because I've played with other people's kids. I know what it's like to have a newborn, because I've played with other people's newborns. But at the end of the day, you give it back.
Oh yeah.
And there's not that much responsibility around it, because it's like, here you go, here's your like whiny child that I don't know how to control or communicate with. Have it back, and you fix this and stop it from crying.
It's funny because my wife and I were actually talking about this not too long ago, and it's having kids it's a lot of things, but one of the things that it definitely is like taking on a roommate. If you ever take on a roommate, and then like for the first like 30, 60 days, like it's such a honeymoon kind of period. Like there's ups and downs, but you can see past it. But at some point in time, there's like an inevitability of like, oh shit, like you live here. and like, and like, and like I said, there's a lot of ways to feel about like having kids and those kinds of things. It's up and down, right? Some people feel that really early on, but for me, it was like about 2 or 3 months in, I was kind of like you're around like all day, like every day, like you're relentless, like for a long time. And like now my kids are, almost 8 and 6, and they're super cool to hang out with. And like, they're easy going, but those first couple of years, they need a lot of help. They need a lot of support.
Yeah.
They're time suckers for sure, in the best way
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I was saying, it's the first time in a long time I've been scared, dude, because I've never done this before.
Yeah.
And this is not something that it's not like, if so when you're going into a new business or a new sport or whatever, you pick up a book and you can read and you can figure it out, and you'll be like, okay, you watch a YouTube video or something. Like, if I need to know a financial formula to figure out something, or like some kind of lending process, you figure it out. But like, there's no books on this. There's no 2 kids are the same. So there's no method where it's like, oh, I know this is a guaranteed win and a guaranteed thing that's going to work, because I already know this just from dealing with Jameson, where like today something will work, and then tomorrow he's found a new way to manipulate the situation, and all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. So it's this constant reiterate and evolve and adapt. And now I've got this like newborn that can't even speak or do anything, and she's just going to be there, like, and I need to know what she wants and how to deal with her. Like, this is wild. So yeah, it's been challenging. Like, the mindset has been a tough one to overcome, because I'm literally like, what if I'm like a terrible dad? What if this isn't what I'm good at? Like, what if I'm the worst person ever when it comes to looking after a newborn, and like I screw her up for the rest of her life? Because like, this as well, right? Like, the kids in their early days, up until maybe 6 or 8, that's where they get their most, like, all of their traumas and everything. And you can really screw up a kid early doors and have them have 20, 40, 60 years of baggage for the rest of their life, because you screwed something up when they were 6.
Yeah.
Like, damn, when you start putting that into perspective, that's a lot of responsibility, man.
Yeah.
It's rough.
I think, the other thing is too, you could do everything quote unquote right as well. And they'll still need therapy. You know what I mean? Like, it's all a matter of the lenses that you view life in. And, sometimes people just have to kind of work through their own stuff, especially kids. And I think you're going to do like, you're going to do awesome, man. Like, that's the beautiful thing about this, about being focused on the process. Because the people who aren't successful as parents or in business or in life or in sports are the ones who can't be the one doing the thing and then take the step back and critique themselves and want to grow and want to learn and ask questions and erode the ego and be humble. And like, the way that I approached it, and I told my wife this, and some people have disagreed with me, and that's fine, but I truly believe this. I knew that my wife understood deep inside of her how to be a mother. Like that's what she always wanted to do. She mothering, she'd been around kids. It kind of came more natural to her. So I said, hey, I am a parent. Like I'm here, I'm dialed in. You're the parent. So I'm going to take your lead. Right. And I'm going to do, you direct me, and I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to try to learn. And if I have an opinion, please listen, because like, this is my perspective from my childhood. I think I have something to add here, but otherwise, like, point and shoot, like, let's do this thing. We got to figure it out. And that, that worked really well for us for the most part.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right. It's like she's wired to be that way, right? It's like she's mothered the child before she was even born, or he was even born. So there's an innate something in there that kind of tells her what's right and wrong.
And not everybody is. And talking to some of our friends, like, or just people that I've come across, like not every person, not every woman feels that way. So like having that honest conversation about like, who's really in charge, quote unquote, in charge, was super, super important for me, because it really mitigated some of the miscommunications we could have had from lacking a shared understanding of how to parent a helpless person.
Yeah, and that like Hannah and I very seldom argue, but every argument we have is around like parenting strategies.
Yeah, for sure.
Always. Like we agree on what good finance looks like. We agree on what a good home looks like and all of this other stuff. But she'll be like, oh, I think you're a bit harsh on that. Or, oh, you should have been this, or you should have done this. And it's like, that's the only time we have a back and forth where it's like, we disagree on stuff. So yeah, it's challenging, but
important conversations to have, brother.
Well, and if you avoid them, that's where the things get really bad as well. Like both of us are like, okay, we're just going to go into this and we're just going to be honest and say it how it is. Like, how do you feel about this situation? How do I feel about it? And let's find some common ground. Because the moment you shy away from those like hard conversations, I think that's when you start whittling away trust and all sorts of stuff. And then you get to a point where there's no coming back from that. And neither of us want that, because I'm in it for the long haul. Like I wouldn't be having a child with a woman that I didn't foresee the rest of my life with, because I don't want to have a child in like a broken family, or give a child a broken family. So I'm not going to be that guy. So having open, honest, and like real conversations is how you stay in a good, healthy relationship. I'm going to do it because it's the path that's going to get us that ultimate win at the end of the day, which is me having a daughter that's grown up and a son that's grown up in a house that loves them for who they are and puts them on the right path.
I love it, brother. 100%. Hey, as we're wrapping up here, just two things. One, what are you excited about next year, next 18 months? What do you got cooking besides the expansion of the family? And then two, where do people find you on social media? What are you up to in the social media sphere?
Alrighty. So the thing that I'm the most excited about at the moment is Aaron B and I are doing this thing with Battle Ready. It's a workout. It's fully remote, but there's layers to the game now that we're talking about and launching and stuff like that. So we've got another meeting, I think, on Monday where we're going to like iron it out and figure it out. But
so this is like a whole fitness, massive, like a fitness performance kind of institute mindset type thing.
Yeah, but we're going to take it. So everyone does the fitness game, right? Where they're like, okay, this is like, oh, we're going to get you fit. But then what? Like, okay, you're physically fit. But now how do we get you mentally fit, financially fit, like fit within your family? How do we keep you leveling up and keep you in a position where you're constantly evolving, adapting, and becoming a better father, better man, etc.? So that's going to be like the big ticket item. That's going to be the big thing that we're going to do. And then we'll obviously have layers to the game underneath that. Yeah. But that for me is going to be massive, because like teaching people how to be financially literate, teaching people how to actually be present with their families and stuff like that, and not shy away from their problems. Like I have a lot of experience in shying away from my problems. I literally did it for like 2 years. I was engaged and I hated my relationship. I hated who I was around her, but I was also too scared to do anything about it. So rather than dealing with it, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to hide. And I think a lot of guys do the same thing. It's like they don't want to have the confrontation. They don't want to have that feedback. So they hide and they just escape through alcohol, drugs, gaming, work, whatever it is. We all have our version of an escape. So this is going to tap into all of that and teach you how to not like just deal with your stuff and level up not only yourself, but your family and your environment and your friends and all of that with it. So that to me is going to be huge. I'm investing a lot of energy into that, and I'm pumped. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
savage
super
like you,
excited.
savage like you, and then pairing that with Aaron and Bedros, two obviously guys who've been facilitating the project, co-created the project, and then also both have dropped by the podcast. So if you're listening and you're these names are new to you, definitely go and listen to what those guys are about. That's a powerful team, man, to team up with and build some curriculum. So you're in great company there.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm super pumped about that. It's going to be a game changer. I think we're going to do some very good things with that. And we're going to have some, like, we're in the business of transformations. And it's not just a sprint. We want it to be a proper transformation where people actually come out the other side better for it and then stay better. Because it's easy to gain and lose the same 20 pounds or gain and lose the same 20 grand or whatever, you know what I mean? But actually evolving and adapting and being that new version of yourself and consistently growing on top of that. So all of a sudden it's not just the 20 pounds, it's an extra 10. And then, you know, like you stay healthy, fit, strong, all that stuff. Like building on top of that is super important to me. So being involved in this is exciting. I'm pumped.
That's killer, man. And then if we're curious on where to find you in social, and I'll definitely put the details in the links of the podcast as well. But where are you at?
Just at Byron Ovenstone. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. I'm not super active on it, but I've started kind of uploading every now and then again. So I have those 3 channels.
Oh, fantastic, man. And I encourage folks to go follow Byron on Instagram for sure. The guy's just a savage. Daily content, like your stories fire me up, man. I certainly appreciate knowing you, calling you a friend, calling you a brother. And every time we hang out, man, it's an absolute blast. So I'm looking forward to the next time that is. And then again, thanks for responding to my request to come on the podcast. Loved having you on today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate you, dude.
All right. Cheers, brother. Take care.
Love you, brother. Bye.